years or so that I've been indexing, I've had several people ask me if I could just give them a walkthrough. Like, could you just walk me through a batch so I can see how it's done? So I'm going to do that for you today. So to get started, you are going to go to your browser. I have a shortcut to FamilySearch, but you could just type in FamilySearch.org, and we will begin with signing in. Once you've done that, it will take you to your home screen, and we're going to look at this menu here. So we're going to go to Indexing, Web Indexing, and that will take you to your indexing homepage. Looking at your home screen in comparison to mine, yours will look slightly different because I've been doing this for so long and I've indexed over 1,000 names. I am eligible to review records. So that statistic will not show up on your page until after you've indexed 1,000 names. Also, when we click on Find a Batch, this is where you're going to go to find something to work on. In this case, there are a whole list of projects that can be worked on. If you are just starting out, beginning is probably where you want to start. If I unclick that, it shows you other options. These 4 that are grayed out, those are their highest priority projects or batches that they need completed. So that's why they are kind of highlighted, like, okay, come work on these. But as you see, they are all intermediate, so I would not recommend starting there. So this is the project I've been working on. So like I said before, this review box here would not be appearing on yours if you have not indexed 1,000 names. So don't even worry about, oh, my screen looks different. So we are going to select index because that's what we want to do today. And as we zoom in, you can see, oh, it's cursive. Now, for those in the non-millennial, actually even millennials, most of them probably still learned cursive. One thing I've noticed about younger people is that they aren't learning cursive in school anymore, so they have a harder time reading cursive. If you've learned how to write cursive, these records will be easier for you than for those who never learned it because they didn't learn how the letters get formed. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. So when you open a batch for a project, this will pop up if it's the first batch that you have done in a project. I highly recommend reading this box for any new project, and it'll just tell you what they are expecting from you. It's telling us that we need to get data off of the second page, but since it needs to be connected to the record on the first page, eventually we will be marking the second page as no extractable data. So I will explain that as well. Okay, so in this case, we're going to go, yes, this image should be indexed. For now, I am going to leave this as yes, that this page needs to be indexed, but I will be coming back to change that at the end. So this gives us all of the information that they're expecting us to extract from this file. So our first line, the surname, clearly the surname is coming first. So this first line is Locker. So we type in Locker. Name prefix. In this case, we don't see any Misters, Doctors, Mrs., Miss, none of that is there. So we are not going to input a name there. You cannot just leave it empty. You have to mark it as a blank field. That can be done either by clicking this icon here, or as it says, oh, I can't move my mouse and have you be able to see it. Command B. So on your keyboard, you would hit Command B and it marks it as blank. Now, I haven't looked through this entire batch yet to see if there's anything that's illegible, but if you cannot read it, if you hit Command U, it does the field as unreadable. There is no shame in marking a line as unreadable. That just says, hey, someone had really bad handwriting, or this was written in pencil 150 years ago, and it has faded, and I cannot tell what it says. Or there's water damage, and I can't tell what it says. No shame. Now, it might be that the reviewer who looks at your batch will be able to read what it says. They can fix it, and they can change your unreadable. So absolutely no shame. So in this case, like I said, it's not unreadable, it is blank. The given name, that is a little bit hard to read. I would probably say that that is W period S period. For a second I thought it might say Wade, or no, that's not an S. That is a C. So something that I do when I'm trying to read the handwriting, first of all, this is a very helpful tool. They bring up examples of how in different eras people would write the different letters. In this case, W, yeah, that looks like a W, right? And then C, it doesn't match what is here, but one thing I do is I use my finger, and either in the air, on my screen, on a tabletop, I trace the same shape that they do. So up, around, and loop. And I think to myself, what letter did I just write? And 90% of the time, I am confident in what conclusion I come to. So in this case, I am going to say his name is W space C. And then you can either click on the next field or you can hit Tab. So his age is 34. Place of nativity, so country of nativity, US. Now, I don't know, do they want me to write United States? Do they want it to stay US? If I'm not sure, I can click this little help bubble. And it says, do not correct misspellings or expand abbreviations. So, okay, I'm going to leave that. So U space S. And the registration year is not on this page. This is the end of the page. But image 1 and image 2 would have been facing pages in the book. So the record would go straight across. So the first line on this page is still Mr. W.C. Locker. And so I take that first line across. And what does it say here? 1902. Now, you see these dots? That means it's going to be the same for every single person until that changes. And in this case, we have ditto marks the entire way down. So, on my first image, not on my second image, I'm going to go back to my first image, and under registration year, I'm going to type 1902. And that's what I mentioned before, was that it needs to be attached to that same first record, and then at the end we're going to go and kind of get rid of this image because we already have the information linked to the first image. So we've got our registration year, which is 1902. Like I said, every single person has that same year as their registration year. So I can copy and paste this basically by clicking here. This icon, copy text from the selected field into the following matching fields. So it will take every entry and give the registration year as 1902. That is 35 less fields that I need to input the information in. So to go to the next field or the next entry, I either hit enter or tab, and it takes me to my next one. So here's entry number 2. So let's go back up to line number 2. So here's our second line. So the last name is Lobato. Again, no prefix. So Command B, or again, I could have clicked here. The given name is Anastasio. Age 47 from here. Place of nativity is US again. And you will not be penalized if you don't use the space and you just put US next to each other. No big problem. And the registration year is already there for us. So tab, tab. Third line, we've got Holly Little. So Little, no prefix. Holly, age 30. Place of nativity, we've got ditto still, so US. And we're just going to speed through this until I come to a point where you actually need to see what I'm putting in. Okay, I'm already there. So this here, we've got our L, O. Now that's disconnected. Some people might say, hey, that's not a P. But if you're backed away and you look at it, personally to me, it clearly says Lopez. It's that the person who wrote this, their own penmanship is a little disconnected. So if you look here and here, those both say Lopez. It's just that this one, it connected there. This one, he picked up a little bit or didn't have ink for a second. To me, this says Lacon, L-A-C-O-N. Someone else might come and look at this and think it says L-A-W-N. So what do? I try my best not to freak out. For every batch that is submitted, 3 people index it. So the hope is if I do it one way, either all of us will do it the same. If we have it different, someone will be able to find their record. So we're not being limited to, oh no, the entire world is only seeing what I'm inputting. So that's just something to help me feel better about what I'm not 100% sure about. I would not mark that as unreadable. It's just how I interpret what it says. Okay, here's another one. L-A-U-S-O-N. At first glance, I thought it said Larson, but then I noticed this one down here clearly says Larson, and it has one less bump in it. So I'm going to say that one's Lawson. And you know what? Since none of these have a prefix, I'm going to input this so I don't have to keep, or I'm going to copy and paste it to the rest of the fields so that I don't have to keep deleting what I type there. Okay, here we have another one. We've got Lindofield. You see this looks a little weird. That's an abbreviation for William. It's capital W, little m. But I believe they don't want us to expand any abbreviations. Again, yes, do not expand abbreviations. So we put WM space J. Okay, now I just got to the bottom of my page and I have an extra record. So what I need to do is go through and count how many there actually are, because maybe I accidentally skipped one. Nope, there are only 34. So since this entry doesn't have anybody for it, we come up here and we click the trash can. Which entries do you want to delete? Just the current entry. So I just hit delete. Let's say I had forgotten one. Let's say I forgot one somewhere in the middle. I would go, let's say like to record 17. Let's say I forgot number 18. I would click here and I would like to add one entry after the last entry, would put it at the very bottom, or after the current entry. That's where I would want to put it if I had accidentally skipped that one. But I didn't, so now we have 34 total. So I'm going to go back to number 34, and we've got our next image. Again, this only had the registration dates, which we had already inputted, just input. So to get rid of that page, we are on step 2, which is putting in the entries. We're going to go back to step 1, the images. And we're going to go to image 2 of 2, and we're going to change this from yes to no extractable data. And we'll delete entries for that image. Next, or at the end, next image. So then our next step is the quality check. It will run through, and if there's any issues, if you've got a number put in where there should be a word, or if you left something blank accidentally, it will tell you this here, and you will go back and correct those mistakes. Since I don't have any, I will click select or submit batch, and hallelujah, we get confetti to help us feel special for completing a batch. And if I wanted to keep going, I could click on one of these, and in this case I don't. And it'll take me back here, it'll update my numbers here, and also it'll show on my little progress chart down here, so for the month of May. And so there you go. I hope that was helpful, and happy indexing.